Low Season Traveller live talks. I hope you're all doing really well in your the various states of lockdown, wherever you are in the world. Great to have you with us and joining us for this latest episode of our mini-series on Africa during the low season months. And today we are going to be talking about Madagascar. And first we're going to be speaking with Rue from Africa Rome about Mozambique, and just have a little bit of an overview, sort of a taster, if you will, of Mozambique and what Mozambique has to offer. So first of all, let's make sure that we give a proper introduction to, of course, our hosts for this mini-series, which is Africa Rome. For those of you that don't know, Africa Rome is a renowned African tour operator offering travelers access to some of the continent's most exclusive and unique experiences, from unattainable culinary opportunities to behind-the-scenes access to art and culture, adrenaline-based adventures, access to the top safari guides, and the majesty of the natural wonders. The team at Africa Rome tailors to every trip to exceed their guests' expectations. And if you'd like to find out more about Africa Rome and the wonderful work that they do, please do feel free to contact Rue or the team on the email addresses there on the screen. And of course, the website is africarome.com. So a little bit about our first guest today, Rue Oosthuizen. Rue's love of travel started very young. Despite growing up in the apartheid South Africa, obligatory annual trips to the Kruger National Park with her family started a lifelong passion for learning about the wildlife on the African continent. In the early 1990s, an opportunity arose to travel to Zimbabwe, and life was never the same after that epic trip. A deep love of exploration and discovery was cemented, and it was crystal clear which direction Rue's career would take. Rue is an explorer and an adventurer, an alpine enthusiast, a foodie, an art lover, a Land Rover fun, and she is, of course, also the founder and CEO of Africa Rome. So let's bring Rue in and see how Rue's doing. Rue, are you there? Rue, how are you?
Hello, Jed. Good afternoon to you, and hello to everyone around the world. I'm sitting outside, and it's just started raining. So if our Wi-Fi gives a bit of trouble, I'm awfully sorry. I hope it does not influence our little chat this afternoon.
We'll forgive you for that. No problem whatsoever. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Manchester, one of those very rare days. So it feels like our weather is polar opposites at the moment. But lovely to have you with us, Rue. We've missed you the past couple of weeks, but I believe you've been out and about. You were at I say out and about. You were at an online virtual travel show for Africa recently. How was that?
Yes, such an amazing and wonderful experience, Jed, to just see all our friends in the industry and to chat to everyone, talking about the African continent and just chatting about our recent world events. It was certainly extremely inspiring for me to see how optimistic the industry is, and that we all just miss the guests actually coming to our shores. First of all, we all miss traveling, and we're all very hopeful for the future. And I do believe we're going to have a fantastic bumper 2021 as soon as the borders open everywhere.
Yeah, the sooner the better. Hey, it's interesting, isn't it? When we talk about hospitality and the travel industry, and we always talk about it from for me first and foremost, I'm a traveler. Obviously a low season traveler. And, I always sort of think, gosh, as a traveler, we miss traveling to these places. But, we sometimes forget that our hosts in all of these destinations, they don't just do it because it's a way of making money. Obviously, it is a way of making money, but they do it because they have a genuine love and a passion for meeting those guests and showing them their destinations. And we sometimes forget that. And I'm sure it must be hard for all of the hoteliers and the different businesses you've been speaking to. They must really miss the guests, actually, the more I think about it. Yeah.
Yes, and all these places, the character, of course, is established by the owners and the people that work there. But it has the influence of the visitors that create an ambiance and a special character. And it feels like everyone that I spoke to, working at lodges, working at hotels, there's a definite mourning for the guest and for the ability to just show the African hospitality that we're known for. So yes, no, it is. We all miss having people from all around the world on our beautiful lands here.
Well, let's hope this that all being well in the next few weeks and months, things will resume, and it will be great for all of those different destinations in Southern Africa to welcome all the guests back. And speaking as one of the potential guests, I certainly can't wait to get over there and experience that hospitality too.
We can't wait to welcome you.
Oh, thank you. So, this afternoon, we're going to talk first of all about Mozambique. And I will, again, I feel like I say this every week with most destinations that we've been talking about, Rue. Mozambique is a destination that's relatively unknown to me, and I would imagine it's relatively unknown to possibly quite a lot of our viewers as well. So really looking forward to learning a little bit more, and just stressing again for our listeners and our viewers out there, this is really just a very, we sort of call it a quick and dirty overview, but it's just really to give people a little bit of a sampler. And then I think, maybe the hope will be, and it'll be the same with some of the other destinations we've featured throughout this series, is maybe at a later date, we'll go in a little bit more depth on just some of the parts of these countries. But for the whistle stop tour, let's find out a little bit more about Mozambique.
Right. So I will just go through a few interesting facts, and just to you can show the beautiful photos, and just tell people in general, because of course we can talk about Mozambique for hours, and unfortunately don't have it today. I've been very privileged. I've traveled to Mozambique probably about 15 times in my life, and
oh wow.
It's an interesting country. So I'm going to try and give a synopsis so that we can entice visitors to visit this very interesting and off the beaten path country in Southern Africa. So here goes. Let me try and see if I can do this for us. Sure. So they call Mozambique the land of the smiling people. And they suffered a harrowing civil war that lasted about 15 years. It's now a peaceful nation filled with people, and they really want to better themselves and the country. They love people, and they absolutely want to love and welcome visitors to their treasured land. So on the map that you're showing, that's the little piece. I mean, it doesn't look that large, but it actually borders the Indian Ocean on the east. It borders Tanzania in the north. It borders Malawi and Zambia in the northwest, Zimbabwe in the west, and then Swaziland and South Africa in the southwest. It is the blue heart of coastal East Africa. And when we show the comparison to Europe, you can see the difference, how large the actual country is. So it's a pretty large coastline. We've got an unspoiled coastline of about 3,000 kilometers, and it's often without a single human footprint. There's sandy dune ecosystems, fringed by dense mangroves, jeweled colored bays, winding estuaries, and some describe areas of the coast in Mozambique as the marine Serengeti of Africa. The Mozambique Ocean is teeming with some of the largest fish, like whale sharks, as well as manta rays.
Yeah.
Also home to some of the most threatened species of marine wildlife, like sawfish and dugong, a manatee-like aquatic mammal. I don't know. I know we have a photo of that.
Yeah,
in one of our slideshows. In fact, one of the last viable population of the dugongs live in the Basaruto archipelago. And the Basaruto National Park, which is one of these photographs that you've got, protects the 5 islands of the Basaruto archipelago. And there's thousands of flamingos, there's crocodiles, there's turtles, prolific bird species. Mozambique has more than 720 bird species, and they all reside in the central area of the country.
When we talk about, sorry, I was just going to say, when we talk about Mozambique, we we see some of these pictures here, and I mean the coastline is just absolutely stunning. And I must admit, when I was first looking at these, it wasn't what I expected. But this is really one of the highlights for Mozambique? It is this coastline. Am I right in saying a lot of it is about this coastline and about the marine wildlife?
Yes, I specifically today, as we progress, I will talk about or mention the national parks where you do, the usual safari. But when I work on Mozambique as an inclusive part of an itinerary, the people that's most interested in this part of the world are honeymooners. Right. And it is because in South Africa, we have an extremely easy, accessible way of combining Cape Town, Kruger, and Mozambique as a 2.5, 3 week stay. So it's a very easy and actually very affordable opportunity, because Mozambique is not such a luxury destination as the Maldives or as Mexico. So it's, if you think about it, if you look at South Africa and you fly from London to Cape Town, spend a few days in the Cape, then you fly from Cape Town direct to the Kruger National Park. And then from the Kruger National Park, you fly the Kruger National International Airport, which is in Nelspruit, which is just outside of the Kruger National Park. You actually then fly direct from there to Mozambique, central Mozambique. So it's a destination that offers the azure waters, like what you would get in Maldives, what you get in the Seychelles, what you would get in Mexico, what you would get in the Caribbean. But you have it on your doorstep of combining it with a safari and with a Cape. So it's a very practical country to include in an itinerary where people not only want to do the Cape or not only want to do a beach holiday, because few people these days I find want to go and lie on a beach for 2 weeks. And especially the kind of guests we work with, they are the adventurous, spirited people, and they really want to have a little bit of everything. And of course, diving, if anyone is interested in snorkeling or diving, this is one of the best places in Africa to do this activity. So that 3,000 kilometer coastline is a huge attraction, but it's not the only thing about the country. So yeah. The coastline is definitely the thing that attracts all of us in South Africa, because it's the Indian Ocean. Of course, it's got a tropical climate. And there's really 2 seasons. So for low season travelers, we seem to always in Southern Africa fall into the summer months. So if you want to escape that winter grey of the UK in January, hop across to Mozambique. I will be honest with you, it's the rainy season at that time. I usually avoid February for my guests because there are cyclones that occur during that time.
Good to know.
But it is not necessarily the cyclones or the hurricanes that we are aware of in other parts of the world. It's milder. But I usually do avoid February because it's just the last, extension of that rainfall period. So that low season traveling starts from November, I would say, and then goes through into April.
But then, with the exception then of sort of February, those other low season months, it might be the wet season or the green season or whatever else we want to call it. But how bad is it? Is it raining all day every day? What's the temperature?
No.
Is it cool or
no?
what's the?
So it's never cold in Mozambique. It's like what we've said all along for Southern Africa, for the eastern part and the central part. Cape Town is always the exception because on the west coast we have our winter rainfall and not our summer rainfall. So in actual fact, it combines the Cape, which is at its warmest time of the year, and also kind of low season in February because people usually don't travel that much in February in the Cape, mostly in December. So you can actually combine the Cape, do a safari, and then go into your Mozambique area where you have the thunderstorms and those beautiful torrential downpours in the late afternoon. It's not like the United Kingdom where it's raining continuously throughout the day. It's extremely warm, so you can go and swim in the ocean. In the morning, you wake up and the sunrise like that is, takes your breath away. And then in the evening, you have the thunder and the heavy rain that comes down. And by the morning, it's all gone. And it's beautiful and fresh and humid. But if you like the heat, that's the place to go.
We all love the heat in the UK. So
yes, I know. Well, you would definitely love it. I think. I suppose you haven't been to Mozambique because you said that you don't know it very well.
No,
it's a bit of a secret place in Southern Africa. The problem is with Mozambique is that the history, the Bantu people came into between the 1st and the 5th century, they came into the country, established the country, and then later on the Swahili people, they arrived between the 7th and 11th century. But the Portuguese actually discovered the country in 1498. Vasco da Gama, he arrived and they colonized the country. And that's the country has extreme Portuguese influence. In fact, the main language of the country is Portuguese. And of course, the seafood, if you like seafood, I promise you, you cannot believe it. You just go down to the beach and you find a local fisherman and you have crayfish, prawns, and the most beautiful fish. And there's a huge Portuguese influence in the style of cooking. So if you like a little bit of spice and a little bit of heat in your food, then this is one of the places that you should come and visit because the diet across the whole nation on the coastal side of it is definitely seafood orientated, and they've have this thing called peri peri. I don't know if you know what that is.
And I've heard of peri peri.
Yeah,
it's like
so peri peri prawn and everything is, you just cook up a barbecue on the beach and you have corn on the cob with some prawns and rice and some peppers, and that's the way that you eat there. So very active kind of holiday, swimming in the ocean and then having a seafood barbecue at night.
Nice. Is it quite popular, Mozambique, with people from South Africa? Because I would sort of feel with the UK, it's not as well known, as other Indian Ocean hangouts, which would include sort of other parts further up of Eastern Africa as well as the islands that we know. But Mozambique, it really is. It's quite an unknown, and as we sort of see the pictures and of the incredible beaches, and as you're talking, I'm just thinking, actually, it's just insane that more people aren't doing that twin center that you pointed out before, which sounds utterly idyllic. Is there, is it the accommodation and everything else? It's all in line with what you would expect in Southern Africa, good quality accommodation as well.
Well, so there's a few questions there. I'm going to try and answer them. First of all, the South Africans descend on Mozambique for the Christmas holidays.
Right.
But that is true for the Cape as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to avoid the South African holiday,
the South Africans. Why would we
holiday
avoid the
crowd,
South Africans? Come on.
which can be quite rowdy. We're a happy bunch of people, as you know, and we like, our little outdoor barbecue and glass of wine in our hands. Mozambique, the southern part, though, that's the interesting thing here. The southern part of Mozambique is the most prolific area that the South Africans choose. So that picture that you've got up there at the moment, that is in the northern coast. That's the Karimbas. Now, what I find interesting, and of course I love this, is that we can also include an East Africa itinerary and fly people from East Africa to the northern part of Mozambique. And then you land at that little place. And that's Carimba. It's in the Carimba archipelago. It's a beautiful stretch of coast. And I mean, it looks like the Maldives. You can't believe your eyes. And what you fly into Pemba, which is the local airport in northern Mozambique, and they wait for you with a helicopter. And then you have a little short hop on a helicopter that takes you to that specific lodge. Now, to answer the question about accommodation, because Mozambique is generally less sophisticated, I would say. You have to remember the country had its independence declared in 1975 from Portugal. So that's 45 years ago. And shortly after that independence, 2 years, in fact, later, a tremendously detrimental, that's our dugong. That's our
the
dugong.
Yeah.
The Civil War broke out and it decimated the wildlife. It created enormous poverty, desperation for these people. So that ended in 1992. So if you think about it, it's not, the country is actually emerging. It's getting out of its, phase of rebirth. And because it's so young, and because the wildlife especially was decimated, it wasn't regarded as a safari destination. And so a lot of people didn't want to invest in this country because why would you, if the political situation is so unstable, no one is going to put money in. So one of the reasons why the country is not as sophisticated as many other parts is because of a lack of funding, a lack of investment. But that's changing now. It's definitely, we can see a huge change. There are a handful of extremely beautiful and 5-star rated lodges, which we can offer. And then there's, the level of the accommodation differs. So it's not as expensive as you would imagine an Indian Ocean holiday to be. And I think it's got a charm that you won't find in other places, because I don't want to say that the people are desperate, but they are so humble and they're so grateful for the fact that the country has opened up to the world, to tourism, and that they can develop it. And like I said in the beginning, it is known as the land of the smiling people. They are extremely friendly. The only small challenge I find is that my Portuguese is extremely poor. And Portuguese is the actual language that it's the official language of the country. So nevertheless, I've never not been able to get along or travel through the country with, it's not difficult. And of course, everyone at the lodges speak proper English, and so there's no language barrier to put people off for visiting the country.
I suppose
Yeah.
one of the advantages, I guess, of Mozambique is as an an Indian Ocean sort of paradise, really, with the kind of beaches that it has, and some of those islands, like you say, it's like looking at the Maldives. Is it might be not quite as advanced as the likes of the Maldives in terms of the tourism offering, and it might at times be a little bit rough around the edges, but that adds to the charm and character, and also it's reflected as well to a degree in the price. So I guess for a lot of people, they will be sort of thinking, actually, if there's a time to go to Mozambique, it's now, before all of that huge investment does go in, because obviously when that investment goes in, they're going to have to recoup it somehow, and that's when the prices will rise. And that's what happened in the Maldives and the Seychelles as well.
Well, that's a good point, and something that I want to touch on, because the country at the moment, is pristine. It has a very small footprint of visitors, and it's not really that well known to many people in the world. But hold on to your hat, because they've discovered natural gas, and it's going to change. So it might be off the beaten path at the moment, but I can tell you, for me, I think in the next 10 years, Mozambique is going to be a very different place. The character is going to change. I'm very happy for the local people that they have the ability, to have that industry to improve their livelihood and to help them to grow their country and their economy, because they are one of the poorest countries in the world and most underdeveloped countries in the world. But for the traveler that's always looking, like we always say, we turn left when everyone else turns right. If you want to find one of those places that is still off the beaten path, then Mozambique should be a place on your travel map that you should see now, because it is going to change drastically within the next 10 years. Yeah, those that's a leatherback turtle. Those leatherback and loggerhead turtles, they have a breeding ground in the southern part, the Basaruta archipelago. It's one of the most important parts in the world. I think there's 3 other places in the world where these animals have safe havens to breed. So it's really extremely important that we, of course, we visit these places that we love, that's off the beaten path, but then we also have to protect the wildlife in the ocean. And we, it's the thing we always talk about. It's that catch-22, because you want to be certain that you don't overpopulate, and that's why low season traveler is such a fantastic idea. You want to go to places where you don't leave a footprint, too many footprints, but at the same time, these places also need people to come and bring money for economy and for development and to protect the wildlife. So it's a huge responsibility that we have. The humpback whales, if you're into the ocean, I'm a big ocean person. I love being in the ocean. That's why I live at the ocean. So if you're a marine enthusiast, please take a trip to Mozambique. You can swim with whale sharks. That's a humpback whale with a calf. You can see them calve in the northern waters, in the Carimbas during the low season. And so, it's just the most incredible country. It's worth a visit.
Perfect. Well, we sadly we are out of time for the Mozambique section. You've absolutely done a sterling job as expected, Rue, for whetting the appetite for Mozambique. And let's say from a purely personal point of view, I'm wondering why I never really considered Mozambique myself before. It was so under the radar. But hopefully, anybody out there listening to this as the podcast, or indeed watching this live or on YouTube, hopefully they'll be sufficiently enamored with everything that you've been saying to try and find out a little bit more. And of course, yourself and your team, this is what you do. You organize these kind of experiences, like you were saying before, where people from the UK can go to the Cape for a few days, go up to Kruger, experience the very best of the Kruger, and then get over to Mozambique for some really great times on some of the most incredible beaches in the world, but also see a different side of nature and know that their presence there, their tourism presence in all of those places is helping to protect and preserve those places and the nature that's in them. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. So it's opened my eyes massively,
Yes.
Ruth. So thank you so much for that.
If I may just take one more minute, I think it's important to also just mention to you that because the war decimated the wildlife populations, they are reintroducing wildlife, and there are astonishing national parks in this country. And maybe in 5 years from now, I can guarantee you it's going to become a massive safari destination when they can get the infrastructure. So we can maybe relook at, Mozambique from a different perspective in a few years' time.
Look forward to that. But I definitely want to get over soon as well, before those changes happen, just so we can experience the before and after as well. I think that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. We're waiting with open arms to welcome you, Jed.
You're very good. Rue, thank you so much for going through that with us today. Greatly appreciated as always, and enjoy the rest of the week. I hope the rain stops for you, Rue.
Yes, it will, but it's lovely and warm, so it doesn't matter. You have a wonderful afternoon. I'll listen to Madagascar.
All right. Thanks a million, Rue. Take good care.
Cheers. Bye, Jade.
So that was Ruth Uthwisen from Africa Rome, and I'm sure you're all hopefully quite excited at the prospect of maybe taking a trip over to Mozambique at some stage. Next up, we are heading over to Madagascar, and this is actually one of the very few places that I have been to. Not often I can say that this series. As always, we have our expert with us from Africa Rome, Warren Pearson, who is a specialist naturalist guide, explorer, photographer, fellow of the Royal Geographical Society, done projects with Animal Planet and National Geographic, and just an all-round good guy. So let me see if I can get Warren onto the show for us. Are you there, Warren? You are there. How are you?
Hi, Jed. You're making me blush.
Yeah, I'm trying to work on the intros a little bit these times. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and you. And good afternoon to everyone, or good morning, wherever you are in the world.
Yeah, exactly. It's you don't know who we're speaking to. Evening, afternoon, everybody's all over. How's the weather where you are?
A little bit chilly, rainy in the Cape. We have a bit of a cold front that's hitting us at the moment. So, but yeah, it's nice. I mean, for Saturday we had a beautiful day of 28, 29 degrees Celsius, and then it sort of dropped on Sunday to about 15, 14. So it's very up and down at the moment. It's that time of the year.
Yeah, that's the way of it, I'm afraid. Well, look, let's crack straight on to Madagascar. Madagascar, a place that's close to your heart, Warren?
Yeah, it's very close to my heart, Jed. It's you've been there, and I think you can sort of get an understanding of what I'm going to be talking about, and it's a pretty special place. And I think a lot of people always think it's one of those destinations that's maybe just a little bit too far away, or too difficult to get there, or how the logistics work. And it's deceivingly easy to get there and to get around, actually, if you have the time. But that's what we can cover quickly today. We don't have a lot of time, but I'll try and wrap it all up as quickly as I can. But it's a country that it's been named the eighth continent on the world, and it's basically it's got mind-blowing diversity. It's located just 250 miles off the coast of Africa, on the east coast of Africa, and it's the fourth largest island in the world. I think the others are Greenland, Papua New Guinea, and what's the other one? I think it's Borneo.
Yeah.
Borneo, that's right. So, it broke away from Gondwanaland, the landmass, about 165 million years ago. And it's followed a distinctly separate evolutionary history, which has resulted in around 98% of the island's native reptiles, amphibians, and other fauna being endemic. So what you find in Madagascar, you're not going to find anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea of the size, you've got the map up there. It's a big island, and getting around is not easy. There are domestic flights that you can get around, which are very unreliable, I'll be honest to say. And if you have the time, rather drive. You see more of the country, you interact more with the people. But the landscapes are just, they're spectacular. You get palm forest fringe beaches, you get semi-arid deserts, limestone pinnacles, volcanoes, grassy plateaus. I can keep going on and on. A lot of people call it the Galapagos of Africa. And it's just, the wildlife and the adventures are just incredible on this island, which I really, really love. So, a lot of people ask me, when's the best time to go there, or when is the time to avoid? I like to say when is the low season? And that's what I always try and get people away from, is the crowds of people.
Yeah.
But it's difficult. Madagascar runs across several latitudes, and its climate really does vary. So broadly speaking, the north is very hot and tropical. The west is temperate. The east is wet, and the south is dry. To put it into a bit of a box, if I can put it like that. Most of the island's rainfall is January to March. So what Rue said with Madagascar, very similar. Cyclones do often occur in February. These are the only months that I would advise to travel cautiously. I'm very careful to say don't travel, because I've had people that have gone there in these months and had spectacular time. So if you are going to go in these months, just be aware that, cyclones do occur. But nevertheless, let's onto the rest of the months, which is April to June. There's some thunderstorms. They often clear up very quickly and the sun comes out again. And this to me is low season traveler time. Yeah. The vegetation is green, it's lush. Lemurs, reptiles, amphibians are readily seen. And then the next month, which would be another low season traveler month, would be December. It's hot, but the lemurs would have just had their young, and the wildlife viewing is fantastic. So, it's also a destination which not many people know about. So even in the so-called high season, you don't get a lot of people there, which is fantastic. Yeah. So if you do have this adventurous spirit, and I know that people listening to these talks and these podcasts of that nature, this is a place you definitely want to go and have on your bucket list.
Yeah, for sure. You get some, you were sort of saying there how, due to the geography of the region, Madagascar kind of slipped away from the main continent of Africa all those millions of years ago, and as a result, the biodiversity is very strange. And there's just a couple of images here, but this is, and I think we'll come on to this a little bit later on as well. This is a giraffe-necked weevil.
It's possibly one of my favorite insects in the world.
Just so bizarre looking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a giraffe-necked weevil, and it's incredible. And just to put it into perspective, the size, it's literally the size of my thumbnail. That's how small it is. And you find them in certain areas of Madagascar, but just this photograph, I remember clearly, we probably spent an hour just watching him or her as it sort of moved around the leaf structure. It is truly a incredible animal. And I mean, this is just one of many on this island. And this is what I love about it. The biodiversity of Madagascar is for me, it's the main attraction. It's everyone has lemurs as the number one go-to. Why do we go to Madagascar? Well, it's for the lemurs. But the lemurs are just one part of it. For me, it's well, I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. There's just, you get chameleons the size of your fingernail, which we're going to get to a bit later on, to one of the largest chameleons in the world being the Parsons chameleon, which if I put my forearm like that, it sits on my forearm. So if people are used to a traditional African safari of the vehicles and your typical morning and afternoon safari, Madagascar is not the place for you. And here you take wildlife on foot, and this is about exploring the forests on foot. And you spend a lot of time walking, and that's what I love about it. You actually get really close to the wildlife that's here. Getting around, as I said, can be a bit of a challenge, but that's the adventure for it.
And you need good eyes. I think
you need exceptionally good eyes
for a lot of these things. I mean, we were talking about chameleons there before, and it was really interesting because they were saying, there's loads of chameleons around here, and I was like, well, I can't see any, and they're like, well, that's kind of the deal. You really need to be so sharp. But then when we did find chameleons, trying to take a picture of them with just the regular phone, at the end photo, you just couldn't see anything on it. So it's just, you need to have a good camera. But also then you sent us these 3 pictures, which I've put onto one. I'll have to make the screen larger. Talk us through what this creature is. This is incredible.
So this is a leaf-tailed gecko, and the camouflage is incredible. I mean, it's just, I don't think I've come across many animals in the world that have such unbelievable camouflage. And if you look at the picture on the left, I mean, you look at it and you think it's just a part of a tree stump. You don't see anything there. And the only reason we found this is because my backpack, when I brushed past a tree, my backpack actually just hit the tree a little bit, and this gecko stood up on all 4 of its legs and then sort of went back down again. And that's how we saw it. But I was very nervous after this to actually grab any tree or branch while I was walking through the forest. And I mean, it's just, it blends in so well. The middle one just gives you an idea from where the tail is at the top to where the nose and the bottom of the head is at the bottom of the screen. It is, I've yet to come across an animal that is, to this day, I still get in awe of this creature and how it just hides itself.
I've just never seen better camouflage. Just before we quickly move on, does it change color like a chameleon, or is it always the same color? And it just chooses very carefully the trees that it goes on.
It doesn't change color, so it just chooses the correct vegetation that it goes on. So to be honest with you, that picture there, the 2 on the left are the same animal, and the one on the right is actually a different one that we found probably about an hour later. And you'll notice there's a slight difference in the darkness of it. So you do get different species or subspecies of these geckos. It's incredible. It really is. You have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, sure. This then is just this is a couple from my photographs. So just as Warren was saying there, I was fortunate enough to be in Madagascar. Actually, this time last year, it was July last year. And that is a place we'll come on to. On the left is a place called Noziranja, which is just absolutely beautiful beach. And then on the right was we went to a place to see lemurs out there. But what we're actually looking at there is there's part of the forest for where the lemurs are, but then there's also they grow a lot of ylang ylang, which may be familiar to a lot of people out there as that sort of sweet smelling scent that they put in cosmetics and everything else. And I had no idea how it grew, but they grow a lot of it, along of course with other spices as well in Madagascar. But let's move straight on. So we've got a whistle stop tour that you're going to bring us on, Warren. So we're going to start with the Masoala National Park.
Masoala National Park. Now, Jed, I'm going to probably skip so much on each of these destinations that we talk about. And the island is so large. It's got such wide-ranging habitats. It is very difficult just to try and cover everything. So I'm going to the ones that we have highlighted here are some of my favorites, and there are some that probably some people have never heard of before, which I'm hoping is the case, and why I want people to go and travel there. But Masoala, it's in the northeast of the island. And this park has an incredible array of biodiversity. Half of the flora and the fauna found in Madagascar is actually found here. Together with its offshore island of Mozambique, it represents the largest of Madagascar's protected land areas and some of its least visited. So for the low season traveler, perfect place. Its habitats range from flooded forest marshlands to coastal forests to mangroves. And this is also one of the very few places in Madagascar where the rainforest actually meets the sea. And you've got that photograph there, and I asked you to put it up there because it's the one part of Madagascar that always reminds me of that movie, Madagascar. So if you just go back one picture, you know, and I'm pretty sure most people around the world have seen this or heard about this movie. It's quite an old one now. I'm not sure when it came out initially, but the kids love it, and it's a fantastic way to put Madagascar on the map. And this park, whenever I'm there, that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me where, you know, these animals washed up and they met the lemurs and the fossa, and so yeah, it's a spectacular park.
Yeah, and we've got a picture of it just there as well, which looks amazing. Can you pronounce this one for us, please?
I was waiting for you to do that. Ranamafana National Park. This is possibly the most well-known park in the country, and this is due to the discovery of a species of lemur in 1986 called the golden bamboo lemur. I think you got a photograph of it here. There we go. And it's a 7-hour drive from the capital if you head south from the capital, and it's found in the center of the island, and it's one of Madagascar's best examples of some good primary rainforest. There are also 11 other lemur species and about 30 endemic species of bird, and we haven't even got to the bird life yet because that is something completely different. But also what can be found here is the fossa, which is Madagascar's largest mammalian carnivore. Now, November to March, during the hot and rainy season, is a fantastic spot to come to Ranamafana for viewing of reptiles. A fun thing to do while visiting the park is also to visit the Kianjavato Lemur Project, where you can actually help with research projects and track a lemur, which is a very eerie looking creature called an eye, also known as a long-fingered lemur. It's got this very long digit, and it's as I said, it's very eerie. I don't know if you have got a picture. I think maybe one of the later slides you might have a picture of it. So just something nice to do there, something different to do in Ranamafana, other than just, and let me just say, with all these parks, they have different routes that you can hike through and walk through and go and explore. So it's just something that you can do when you're there at each of the parks. Go and ask about sort of what are the projects. There's a lot of conservation projects going on. And this Kianjavato Lemur project is one that I always try and get people to get involved in and do some of the research in the park and help the researchers.
Yeah, love that. Next one is Andasibe.
Very close. Andasabe National Park. This is probably the most popular national park in the whole of Madagascar, and it's purely because it's only a 3-hour drive from the capital, Antananarivo. And being so close to the capital, it has this good road structure, which means it's a very popular park, and it's open all year round. And it also guarantees some phenomenal lemur sightings. Probably one of the best lemur experiences in the world. You have 13 different species there, but why I've put this one on is it's probably one of the best places to spot the Indri. And the Indri is the world's largest lemur. And for me, there's nothing better than waking up really, really early, getting out into the forest, being the first people out there, and going to go and track and find these lemurs, these Indris, because they have this howling call every morning that they do, and it roughly goes on for about 5 minutes each group, and it sounds like the mix between a wolf calling and a whale calling mixed together. It's the most crazy sound in the world, and it's something that I just completely love. So that's one of the reasons why I put Andasabe on here. It's a very special place. It's actually got 2 parks. There's 2 parks to Andasabe, one called Pearson, which is very popular. It's right next to the main road. And then my favorite is manta deer. So of Ndisaba, you got those two, Pyrenees, manta deer. Manta deer is my favorite. This is where I could spend all day in. You need a 4x4 to get in there, and you need a long way to get in. It's really difficult to get in, so you don't get the crowds. That's the best part of it for me. But yeah, you get to see Pearson's chameleon, which is one of the largest chameleons in the world. One of the best places to find it. You need to look hard still. They're there, but they're very, very difficult to find. So yeah, it's a fantastic park to go and explore different experiences, from manta deer to Pyrenees. But definitely a park I would put on your list to go and see.
I've got to say, before we move on, Indri, do they always look so surprised to see you?
Pretty much, yeah.
I was looking at so many photos to put on here, and every single one, they look like, oh my God, you've just caught me doing something. I just thought it was quite funny.
It's like they've done something naughty and you've just caught them.
You just snuck up on them. Isalo National Park is next.
So this is one of my favorites, but not for its wildlife. It's the sheer diversity of the landscape that you find here. It almost feels like you've stepped back into a Jurassic period with these massive sandstone mountains that have been shaped over time by wind. Although the wildlife may not be as extensive here, there are still, however, 14 species of nocturnal lemur, of which 7 are endemic. There are also a number of amphibians and reptiles that you can find there as well. So for me, this is about getting out into just being in complete and utter wilderness. And yeah, if the lemurs aren't number one on your list, but landscapes are, and seeing dramatic scenery, I mean, that is just should speak for itself, that picture. This is a national park I really do love to get to.
Yeah, love that. Absolutely stunning scenery. Just so different to some of the scenery from the other parks as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ile Saint-Marie or Ile Saint-Marie or Nosy-Baraha.
Ile Saint-Marie. Some people also, the locals know it as Nosy-Baraha. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is an island, and it's a very large island. Actually, it's 50 kilometers long by I think 7 odd kilometers wide. But it's located just 8 kilometers off the northeastern coast of Madagascar mainland. It has some spectacular deserted beaches that are, if you just picture any sort of scene from a movie where you have these coconut palms and primary rainforest, and it seems completely wild, and that's what it's like. It has some inland villages, and the best way to get around is to get onto a mountain bike and just go and ride around the island. It is really, really spectacular. It's an ideal spot for whale watching during the months of July to September. The diving and fishing is incredible. There's quite a few different wreck sites that go from easy to challenging. And interestingly enough, for me, this is quite a highlight. It's probably from a childhood upbringing, but it has the island's and the world's only pirate cemetery. Wow. Complete with skull and crossbones on pretty much every single mortise that you get there. Yeah. It's the only one in the world that you can go around and actually have a look at, and this is where pirates were buried. Wow. So just a little bit of history there, which puts you back into this bygone time. It's a crazy feeling when you're there.
I'm guessing there could be some treasure there as well, Warren. You never know.
I'm pretty sure a few people have gone looking.
I'm sure they have. Ankarana National Park.
So Ankarana is up in the very north of the island. It's a geological wonder. It has these incredibly unique limestone rock pinnacles known as tsingy. But the topography of the park is so varied, and in addition to the tsingy, there's a tropical jungle, there's fast-flowing rivers, green forest, you get canyons, and possibly the biggest underground network of caves in Africa. It's said to have the highest diversity of lemurs in any of the reserves of Madagascar. Really? I think there's about 11 different types of lemur that you get here. It's also a fantastic place to go look for fossa, that carnivore that I told you about that primarily goes and hunts lemurs. And it's another favorite animal that's there of mine is you get tenrecs, little streaked tenrec, which is a tiny, small little rodent-looking animal. You got mongoose, you get striped civets. It's really an incredible place. But the singi there, the picture that you've got there is just one of many different forms of singi that you get. And it's quite interesting, the singi, the formation is it's a lot of people ask, how did this singi form? And it's actually began get my maths right now. I think it's about 200 odd million years ago, when layers of calcrete accumulated at the bottom of a Jurassic lagoon, and they formed this very thick limestone bed. Later, with a lot of tectonic activity, it elevated the limestone, and as the sea levels then fell during one of the ice ages, I think it was the Pleistocene ice age, if I stand to be corrected on that, even more of this limestone was exposed. Then, because it was no longer underwater, these ancient sediments were carved by monsoon rains, by winds, and it just, what you get is what you see there today. And it's got this crazy formation of, some of these are jagged spires, some of them are rounded surfaces. It's just an incredible landscape to go and see. And getting around as a human is exceptionally difficult. It really is. You'll injure yourself if you try and get yourself around there. So a good guide getting you in there, knowing where to get you around, how to get around is the best way to go through there.
Yeah, as always. Presumably, that's possibly one of the reasons why there are so many lemurs there. I mean, I guess less predators, because I guess the lemurs can work their way around there, no problem.
Absolutely. Lemurs and sifakas, it's very easy for them to jump across onto these spires and to move around. So absolutely, you're 100% correct.
Yeah. Ifati.
So Ifati is down on the southwestern part of the island, and it's actually one of the original beach destinations when Madagascar first opened up to tourism, and therefore possibly also the most well-known and visited from a beach destination. However, it has the advantage of around 300 days of sunshine. Now, for I think most people in the UK, you're going to go, hang on, I need to get there. But it has 3 areas of private spiny forest. Now, you've got a picture there of some of the octopus trees, what they're called. And these are, it's incredible. All I can try and say to you is, try and imagine the quintessential symbol of Madagascar, which is the ring-tailed lemur, bouncing across and clinging to these wild spiky plants. It's incredible. There's a very good example. Thank you for that. It's the spiny forest is something to see for itself. It's hard to explain. And I say spiny forest, people don't really understand what I'm talking about unless you've gone there and you've seen it yourself. And that goes for most of Madagascar, to be honest. The other forest areas around Ifati, they're home to some of the island's largest baobab trees. Some of these baobab trees go back to over 1,200 years old, something like that. It's incredible. There's 7 species of baobab in Madagascar. This is just one that you have there. It's called the Grandidier's baobab. The trunk is typically shorter and wider than most specimens found elsewhere. So just a really unique tree. And this is what I love about Madagascar. It's not just about the animals. It's about the plant life. It's about the birds. There's so much going on. As I say again, it's the biodiversity is incredible.
Those baobab trees, every time I see a baobab tree, I just think they are just visually very, very beautiful trees. They're just utterly captivating. But I hadn't realized that there were so many different types of baobab tree as well. I thought there was just one. There's 7
different species in Madagascar. Yeah.
Wow, yeah. It's incredible.
The other thing, just on Ifati, just going back to Ifati, from a conservation perspective, is that they have a turtle breeding project that's operated out of one of the villages that are close by there. So once again, something else I always try and just tell people, if you really want to contribute back to conservation in some way, there is this turtle breeding project, and if you're there at the right time of the year, you can get involved in that, and the villagers are more than happy to help you or have you partake in it.
Yeah, wonderful. On to Mikia
National Park. Yeah, so not a well-known park. This is just north of Ifati. and it's one of Madagascar's newest parks, and it provides a welcome break from the very well-known parks of either Andasabi or Ranamafana. It is very arid, but it also has miles of idyllic white sandy beaches, which are perfect for snorkeling. It has lakes, rivers, marshes, just to sort of throw in a little bit from the arid side of things. And these areas are just waiting to be explored. But the reason I like to go to Makia is actually to spend time with the Makia people. Now, these are one of the last practicing hunter-gatherers groups possibly that are in the world. There's probably about 1,500 of them left on the island. And for me, this is an experience that I think, I always try, wherever we go in Africa or Madagascar, is spend time with the local people. And to spend time with these people, and they are so hospitable, they are so warm and welcoming, and they will let you partake in their daily activities as they go about. And I mean, the smiles on the people's faces there, that should just say everything about what they're like. And yeah, I think, you want people to experience this culture, you want people to see them, but also there's a part of me that I want people to hold on to that culture and not to lose that culture. So that balance of trying to get not too many people to experience them.
It's hard, isn't it? We talk quite a lot with the work that we do on the World Tourism Association for Cultural Heritage about about how tourism can play a role. Isn't always successful, but tourism can play a role in helping to protect and preserve these cultural traditions and ways of life. But it's a really fine, balanced one in our experience as to when it gets pushed over the edge to actually disrupting it. And it's hard. It's got to be done in a really carefully managed way. But tourism can be a force for good, for helping to preserve that, especially if tourists like myself and yourself and others, I guess, want to go to that destination to experience that cultural way of life. And then those people can recognize that there is a true value in retaining that culture, hopefully.
Exactly. It's a very tough line, and it's a very fine line to, which way do you go? And it's a balancing act. It really is.
Yeah, true. Amber Mountain National Park. I can pronounce that
Amber
one.
Mountain. Amber Mountain is of National Park. It's named after the amber residents from localities that are in less qualities.
I'm so sorry about this, everybody. We seem to be having a little bit of a problem with Warren's sound at the moment. I guess there's a bit of an interference. Can you still hear us, Warren? I think we might have lost. Oh,
and that is. Beg your pardon?
Can you hear us, Warren? So we lost you there for about 2 minutes.
I can hear you.
You can hear us now. Perfect. No, just as you started talking about Amber National Park, the sound basically went. So if you could, just start again at the top with regards to Amber National Park.
Okay, I'll start again if you're hearing me correctly. I just wanted to talk about Amber.
I'm sorry, everybody. I think we've lost Warren again. I'll try and fill in while we see if we can get Warren back. But I know that that Warren was going to talk about this, which is one of the smallest chameleons. I think it's the smallest chameleon in the world, which is the micro. I want to say it's the micro pygmy chameleon, but I'm sure Warren's going to have fits if I've got that wrong. But I think it's one of the world's smallest chameleons, which can be found in this Amber National Park. There you can see on the screen just how small it is. And if you want to see it close up, you can see there just how tiny it is. No bigger than a thumbnail, really. We're just going to see if Warren's back. It doesn't look like he is, so we will quickly go through a couple more of the pictures for you. He's next going to talk about Mackay, which again looks like it's another beautiful part showing the diverseness of, or the diversity, I should say, using a correct word, of Madagascar yet again. And it's almost got a Grand Canyon type feel to the place, has Mackay, with some incredible rock formations as well. At that point, we were going to end anyway, so we've just accelerated where we were up to. So what I will say is thanks to Warren. If he can hear us at all, I don't know. But it's been absolutely wonderful to learn a little bit more about Madagascar. As I say, I have been to Madagascar myself. I was there in July. The main gateways for Madagascar are Tana, and Tananarivo is the main airport. You can get flights with Air France and others from Charles de Gaulle. The flights aren't particularly cheap to Tana, but hopefully what you've seen and what Warren's talked us through there is it's absolutely well worth making the trip. You can also fly into the north of Madagascar to the main airport up there in Nosy Be. Nosy Be is part of the tropical area of Madagascar. There's some incredible beach resorts around there. There's that place, Nosy Oranje, which you'll have seen the photograph at the beginning of this presentation where I was, which is just glorious beaches. And that's also a place that you can fly into relatively easily, but well worth the visit. I can tell you that. So yeah, huge thanks again there to Warren, as always, for sharing his insights with us this week. Next time on Low Season Africa, in 2 weeks' time, on the 28th of September, same time as always, we're going to talk about the final frontiers with Warren. So this really was to sort of highlight some of those destinations in Africa that people really wouldn't think to travel to on vacation and during their leisure time. But Warren's going to talk to us about these destinations and about why actually they are worth considering, and they're certainly ones to watch for the future. So the final frontiers on Low Season Africa is Monday, the 28th of September. Same time as always, New York, 9 a.m., London, 1400, Madrid, 1500, Cape Town, 1500, and Dubai, 1700. Hope you can join us for that. We'll send the link out on the Facebook group shortly. Also, you can catch up with all the rest of this series on Low Season Africa. You can find the podcasts on iTunes and Spotify, and also you can see these videos rerun through on YouTube as well. And of course, all of the content is available as always on lowseasontraveler.com. Last thing before you go, please do join us as we strive to make the low seasons in the destinations around the world more accessible and encourage people to travel during the low seasons, as it is a more responsible time of the year to experience the world's destinations. And you have an experience which is less hurried, it's less crowded, more socially distanced, and usually it is cheaper as well. But we believe it's the best time of the year to travel. But then, of course, we're Low Season Traveler. But please do follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, LinkedIn as well. That's our show for this week. Look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time on Monday, the 28th of September for the final frontiers. But until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and don't forget, now more than ever, it's better to travel during the low seasons.